Welcome to the Project Management Happy Hour. Our aim is to share frank and honest discussion about real-world issues in project management, but do it in a way that's not too dry, though it might get a little salty sometimes.
I'm so excited for our guest today, Kim. This was such a good conversation.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it as well.
It was so fun to talk with Noel. I feel like her and I are peas in a pod, that we would be just unstoppable as a duo on a project together. We just share such a similar philosophy. And one of the big things we talk about today is how to build credibility as a project manager and how to have that launch your career forward and create relationships with the people who can be incredible sponsors and cheerleaders for you in your career.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about this, but it's really counterintuitive. You think you need to come in knowing everything, but it's actually quite the opposite.
Exactly. But I'm so excited for all of you to meet Noel. So let's tell you about her and then get us started.
Yes, our guest today is Noel Nicole Ransom. She's Vice President of Implementation, Project Management Professional, PMP, Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, educator, speaker, and founder of Sigma Certify. Noel specializes in helping organizations improve delivery performance, remove operational bottlenecks, and create sustainable business results. She's led teams responsible for complex enterprise implementations, organizational change efforts, process improvement programs, and strategic transformation initiatives.
In addition to her executive leadership experience, Noel is passionate about developing future leaders and helping professionals bridge the gap between certification and career advancement. Through speaking engagements, coaching, and education, she focuses on practical leadership skills, executive communication, operational excellence, and helping project professionals transition from being task managers to influential business leaders. Noel is also the founder of Sigma Certify and the author of leadership and career development content focused on helping professionals create meaningful impact in their organizations.
Welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you on today.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful to be here. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you on. It's great to meet you.
Now, before we jump in, I've got my favorite question I love to ask all of our guests, and I feel like today, most of the episode will be covering the same question, but let me just put it to you straight. A question that I love to ask is, what is the most valuable business lesson that you had to learn the hard way?
Oh, wow. Trial and error. I will tell you, the most valuable lesson that I have learned along the way is that being right is not enough. And that's hard for somebody like me who has to always think that I have to have everything buttoned up. Earlier in my career, I believed that if I had everything, all of the analysis done, the best solution, all of the data, people would naturally support it because I had everything planned. And what I did not anticipate were extra questions. And I also learned that the organizations move mostly at a speed of trust and not necessarily logic. So you got to develop some relationships and develop that credibility. And you can have the perfect answer, but if people don't understand it, they don't understand all the analysis, they don't know what drives your solutions, and they don't believe in it, or if they don't feel included in the process, then nothing is going to change. So I spend a lot of time today building relationships and having that alignment as I do solving problems. So yeah, you got to develop that trust, and I learned the hard way.
That one gets me right here. I feel that one.
I'm telling you.
I've often heard the phrase, businesses move at the speed of trust, but then you're almost corollary to that with not at the speed of logic. I wish I had heard that earlier in my career, because I was very logical. I was extremely logical, Noel. I don't know why.
It only makes sense, right? Hey.
Yes. And I applied that logic everywhere. I was like, you hired me, a smart person, to do the job. And then you asked me to do the job. And I did it. And I have these things. Why are you not happy with the job? I have done it. It's the job.
Right. It's the job. To the T.
To the T. Yes. I's dotted, T's crossed.
T's crossed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I did everything. What are you telling me that you don't like this? And it's right. That can be intimidating. That can be assuming. That can be, and it's wild that not understanding trust can ruin your credibility with somebody whenever you come with this big prepared plan. So I am so excited that that's what we're going to dive into today. I was like,
Awesome.
oh, Noelle's a kindred spirit. Whenever we first got to talk to her, I was like, we're going to have a blast. So I am excited. One of my pet peeves about how people perceive project managers is as schedule managers. I feel like I've worked my whole career to overcome this perception that I'm just a box checker and I'm here to just ask about when you're going to be done with that, which it feels like the least helpful way to be a PM. I would love to hear about what this journey was like for you in your career. How did that go?
Yeah, it started off as, hey, do you know when somebody's going to get this done? And what do those notes look like? Do you have my status report ready? Can you schedule this meeting? One of the things that I tell new PMs is that you are not a glorified executive assistant. And most times there's this common misconception about project management is that project managers' jobs are to manage schedules to check the box. And the biggest mistake I see PMs making is becoming those professional note takers instead of what I call progress makers. They
Yes.
document issues, they put in meeting minutes, then they move on. Okay, great. But are we solving problems? Have we identified any issues? Are we driving people to think of, let's get to the solution? And that's not really happening if the only box you put me in is to note take, give you a status, note take, give you a status. That also kind of becomes boring. And I don't know how many people stay in that lane and continue to become productive. So that's the biggest misconception that I see, and also my own private experience in that area. So yeah, that's a biggie.
Yeah. I mean, anytime I walked in a room and people were like, oh, the note taker is here, whether or not they said that, you could feel that,
Yeah.
or like, oh, can you set up the next meeting? Like glorified executive assistant. Ugh.
It's crazy. One of the examples that I have in my own experience is that someone took the time to just kind of send me an email that says, hey, I need you to schedule this meeting on this day. This is the topic, and here are all the different people that we would like for you to invite. And I'm thinking to myself, like, by the time you write this and then send it to me, you could have had that meeting scheduled already. Is this what
You
I'm
could
supposed
have.
to do? And we kind of fall into that trap. If we accept that as the norm, then we're setting an expectation and a precedence that this is what I'm going to do, and that they're going to keep on asking you to do the same thing.
Yeah. To your point earlier too about, I don't know who wants to stay in this lane of being this like boring, but what a boring job, to just sit there and
Right.
take notes and set up the next meeting that someone else even decided. Like, don't get me wrong. I understand folks who are calendar managers, there is a fun skill and art to that genuinely, but like, yeah, if somebody else is going to send you the email with everything in it, I mean, at this point, they could have just told their little AI bot to do that for them.
We have bots to do that, right?
Yeah, we got apps to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. We have bots to take notes. We have bots to set meetings.
Yeah.
I want to feel important. I want to feel like I'm doing meaningful work. And that meaningful work tends to come from doing the work like removing obstacles and
Yes.
becoming a problem solver. Like that feels so valuable and rewarding. So I'm with you. Like from the beginning, I was like, this is the part of the job I like. I don't know what the rest of these things are, but I'm going to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell the PMs all the time that I work with that, if you are a good PM worth your salt, you're removing roadblocks. But a roadblock without ownership, without resolution dates, is a problem that's kind of waiting to grow. So if something is stuck, identify it, assign ownership, establish the path forward. But I say all the time, teams don't need more status updates. They need fewer barriers. They need something to keep their work moving. They need to remove all of that. They need to know who to go to for what. And so that's why I say progress makers, because if you do that, then people start looking at you as a leader. You position yourself better, and then that's where the credibility and trust starts to develop.
Can I ask a question on behalf of our listeners, and I guess myself as well? I love this idea of being the progress maker and getting rid of obstacles. Do you have any special prompts to go and find out what are these, or do you just go ask them, what are your obstacles today? I mean, how do you elicit that in a productive way?
Yeah, so I use a simple formula. Like I first say, here are the things that we need. So every roadblock needs three things: an owner, action, and date. And if one of those things are missing, then it really can't be managed. And then people will ask, just like you did, well, how do I figure that out? And so this is where you got to be unafraid to talk to people. And you do ask questions, but you ask them in those formalized status updates. Is there anything that's keeping you from getting this done by this date? Are there any dependencies? Are you waiting on someone else to do this work? And if so, what can I do to help? Do you need me to come in and have conversations with someone so that we can try to move the work forward? We do that in Scrum meetings or in different status meetings, depending on what organization people are in and what methodologies they're choosing. But for me, it's just as simple as communicating, asking the questions. How are we doing? Are we on track? What makes us not be on track? Is there anything that you have run up against that you can't solve? Because that's where the PMs come in. They come in there to remove those barriers.
I like the way you phrase that because it's service oriented. What can I do to help? Who can I talk to for you? But you're still holding accountability because it's still them. And you're removing those obstacles for an excuse, I guess, in some way.
Yeah. And one of the examples that I can bring real world to is that we have sometimes this perception that the PM is going to come in and take over my job or maybe hinder progress through all of their processes and checklist items. And I have to tell people and remind the entire team, like the organization of folks that think this way, that's not the blocker the PM is trying to remove. We're not trying to remove your skill set. We're not trying to keep you from progress. We're not removing those things. We're trying to get those moving more and have more productivity. And as soon as people understand where that role fits in, oh, you mean to tell me I have a partner in this?
Yes.
I actually have somebody who can help me move the work faster. I don't have to be the one to set up the meetings and think about the integrations and then also handle the dependencies. I can just do what I do best, and that person can be the quarterback or the point guard or the facilitator, and I don't have to worry about it. Maybe I was thinking about this all wrong. So yeah, those kinds of things, you have to have those conversations about.
Yeah, talking about this reminds me of this moment happened for me many times in my career, but it does vividly stand out to me the times where I would be in a meeting and it's early in my relationship working with someone and the meeting is getting off track. And that could be due to talking about like, there's two people talking about, oh, I want to do all this stuff. And, I want to add all this scope to the project. They're not using those words. They're saying, I want to do all this stuff, right?
Yes.
Which I'm hearing as you want to add a bunch of scope to the project. Or you're gilding the lily, could be another thing too. But either way, some stakeholder is being like, I want extra things. And my technical doer that's on the call with me, whether they're an architect or an individual contributor for this, they're like, oh God, here we go again. And then I stepped in because I knew enough about the technology and I was confident enough to confront the person, asking for this extra scope by saying, hey, I love what's going on here, but I want to be really clear that what we'll get done within this timeline that we agreed on will be these two items. And that third item sounds great for a future phase of what we're working on today. So are we aligned that these two will be set and done? That's the definition of success between now and 3 months from now. And the stakeholder is like, oh yeah, that's really reasonable. And I was like, great, glad we're aligned. And after the call, like after having a conversation like that, my engineer reaches out to me and says something like, gosh, that was great. That was so good. We don't have to do all that stuff now. It's great. Just elated because they haven't worked with many project managers that know how to defend the line, prevent extra work from coming through. Or, right, if they're like, I just need to get this approval. It's the same type of conversation, right? Like you and I know how to have that conversation. But the way afterwards, they're like, that was great. Like, wow. It's like the first time you watched AI do something where you're like, I didn't have to write all those words.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know if you had a similar moment, but like, I do remember like the first time that happened to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I lead with some of the documentation. Like if you are lucky to have a charter, that kind of helps you if you know how to use it, right? So I do the same thing that you do. I acknowledge these are great ideas. These are all awesome.
Great ideas.
Some of these sound like fast followers. I call them fast followers.
Love that. Also classic phrase, fast follows.
Yes, they don't always include what we're doing today. And I said, well, I'm looking back at the charter to figure out where I can fit these in. And it looks like based on what our scope is, these aren't in our scope right now for this time frame. This is a great idea that we can revisit. Perhaps it might be a phase 2. Maybe it becomes a pilot. So I'm starting to be this teammate with that person doing a small ideation session, but saying at the same time, we got to hold off on it because we cannot accept more work at this time. And a lot of folks think that we have to accept the work, especially if you have folks that are in support or our IT, amazing folks in IT. They're like, oh my gosh, there's more stuff. Let me write it down. How am I going to get it done? And I'm like, time out. Don't worry about it. I gotcha. And if you can get that partnership and you can display how a project manager is so valuable in those situations, then most times then people are going to automatically look at you like, uh-oh, they're about to introduce some stuff that we don't need to do. I'm going to sit back and see what my PM's going to say. I'm not going to say anything at all. I know they have it. That's another part where you're lending credibility and trust to that whole relationship. And then people are going to start asking you to be on all kinds of projects after that.
Yeah, you got to be careful. Don't do this if you want to be the number one project manager, because then they're going to put you on harder and harder projects. Which, if that's your goal, then that will help you succeed.
Yeah.
All right, but what if we ask all that, try to engage, and they resist? They don't want us to engage with them. They're like, what are you doing? Get away from me. How do you handle when they're really not into that kind of assistance and they're pushing back?
Yeah. So there are a ton of stakeholders who have these personas where they're sort of like hands crossed and I'm leaning back and yeah, it sounds good, but I'm good. I'm good over here. Right. For me, I've learned this. I wasn't born understanding all of these nuances, right? You have to kind of do trial and error. But for those who have come up against this type of resistance, that's kind of what I call it. Hesitant team members, difficult stakeholders. My first assumption now is that they're not really resistant, they're concerned. And if I take that approach, I've got to figure out what the hesitation is coming from. Where is that coming from? Resistance and concern are two different things in my book. And most people aren't really trying to be difficult, even though it may appear that way. Like, oh my gosh, every time I talk to this person, they're going to automatically shoot everything down. I treat that as, what are they concerned about? What is the real root cause of why they really don't want to participate? A lot of times I feel like they're going to be worried about something, my job. I'm fearful that you're taking over a process that I used to manage. I don't really know how this really impacts what I do every day, but I don't like it because it's going to change something. I don't know what that change is, but it's going to change something.
And humans hate change, right? They don't want that at all.
We hate change unless though we're deciding to make the change. If I want to change my whole job, or I know that I want to go run a marathon and I got to train, then I'm okay with that because I'm getting my mind prepared. But if someone says, hey, you got to run a marathon.
Yeah, you choose to put yourself in the torture.
Exactly, right? And so, but then if change comes and happenstance upon you, then you're going to be resistant. So I am trying to break down these barriers by having, again, conversations. It all still boils down to that communication. And I'm looking at this as, okay, let me figure out what their uncertainty is. So what that really sounds like, though, of course, you got to be okay with having conversations. Approach them not trying to convince them of anything. That's never going to work. Take a different approach and start with curiosity. Ask questions. You can start with something like, what concerns do you have? But I like to go into it to make sure that they feel heard. What risks would you be worried about? What are you seeing that we're not seeing? Is there something that I can help explain to you? Because I knew that you were confused about this, or I don't think that we're on the same page, but I want to make sure that we are because I need you as a part of the team. I also approach it as, we're thinking of bringing you in for these calls so that you can be a part of the conversation because we need your expertise. Just want to bounce some ideas off of you. Many times I see that folks are just not understanding where their role fits in the whole process. And sometimes they feel like I'm being pushed out. I wasn't a part of the project team and this is going to impact me. And I like to include them in the discussion. And they may not have a direct interest, but they have a perceived impact. And I want to break down that barrier by saying, well, would you mind coming to some of our meetings? I'd love to be able to get your thoughts after the meeting on how you went, what other ideas might you have. That doesn't mean we accept them all. It just means that we're including them so that we can try to change resistance into maybe an ambassador one day. Giving more information, including them, really helps them break down some of those concerns that they may have.
I hear you say this. You're so clever. Smarty pants little me is like, but I know their ideas are bad. I don't want to pull them in.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes I don't really want to deal with this person, so I don't want to talk to them at all, right?
Yeah. Because not everybody you want to pull into your project is a helpful, productive, stakeholder sponsor. On the racing matrix, you want them as an I, but they need to feel like a C. And so I am currently in awe of your ability to make someone feel special as a strategy to pull them into the project and make them more engaged. We were thinking about pulling you in. We'd really value your expertise. I mean, that puts that person in a way on a pedestal. It elevates them. It shows respect that you're interested in what they have to say. To your point, you don't have to do it, but that is such a clever way to engage a disengaged or worried stakeholder. It's almost like even asking what are you worried about is such a therapist question,
Mhm.
like what's going on for you? What feels scary about this? You're
Tell
holding
me
the
more.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how does that make you feel? And you're holding the space for them to give you everything that you need.
Yeah.
And it almost reminds me of I started reading Never Split the Difference, and they talk about how good negotiation involves the other party talking the most, that you talk the least and they talk the most. And that's exactly what I hear you describing when you talk about that.
That's amazing because that's what I do. People love to talk about themselves or vent or just have a listening ear. If you can be that listening ear, and I'm not saying have them on the couch being the therapist all the time. However, if they know that you are the trusting person with all the information and they can come to you to get that information, but also express concern and you can help them understand where we are in that journey, then they're not necessarily resistant any longer. They still may walk
Right.
away not liking the idea, but they may walk away understanding why the idea needs to come into fruition. And so that is what I'm trying to get those folks that are resistors to see is that, hey, we all don't know everything. We don't expect everyone to know everything, but I do want to make sure that you know what we are doing so that you can be a part of it. And people want that listening ear. They want to feel like their input is valuable or that somebody is actually asking them what they think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these, resistors can become subject matter experts, or maybe I didn't think about it this way, but now that I'm talking to them, they're bringing all these great ideas to me. We might not be able to do it fast follower, but oh, wow, that was a great idea. This makes sense. And now you've kind of broken down those walls.
One of the things I loved about getting to know you and your journey was I could tell that you have really worked your way up to working with the top leadership teams in the company. And there are ways in which I felt like working with leadership was different than working with your project team. With your project team, it's almost like you're in the trenches and you can be more casual. And also you can argue with them more in a good way, right? In the way that you're problem solving and working together. But you can kind of duke it out with a project team in a way that you really never would, or it isn't super productive or trust or credibility building with leadership. So I would love to hear about some of your takeaways on how to have effective conversations with leadership and how you think about that now at this point in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. Because with your core project team, you've sort of become family, right? And family can talk however they want to each other. And there's some arguments and then you love each other. Not so much when it's executive leadership because you're not with them every day. And so I've learned over my years of being in project management now sitting around the table with executive leadership teams that leadership conversations really should begin with understanding before persuasion. If you go in, I used to say like a bull in the china shop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you're automatically going to create walls that you're trying to bring down. And the goal isn't really to win an argument. What are we arguing for? We're on the same team with the same goal. And that goal is to create clarity so that we can move forward. And as we do that, then people start supporting what they're helping to create and making sure that we're all creating all of the great things that we're doing together, including them as a partner, getting that understanding. They're like, okay, this person is not really trying to fight a battle, actually in it with us. And so now I'm able to support better. And then that's where you're getting the credibility, the trust, but you're now getting it from executive leaders. They're also going to start calling you in. I wonder what you think about this. What does Noel think about that? She really brought some great ideas to the table. That doesn't sound like an argument. That doesn't sound like I have to be persuasive now. And it's all because you started with leading those conversations to get understanding and to get some clarity.
I love that, starting with trying to understand their point of view, because very often they don't even know what their point of view is. And
So
so
true.
just starting with there, you can help them get clarity for themselves as well as you. Yeah, that's just a really good approach.
One thing I want to point out here is that Kim was like, they don't always know what they want. And Noel was like, that's so true. And I just want to highlight this for our listeners. One of the things about being an executive, and I've talked about this a lot, but you're constantly context switching. And, there are things that, if you're at the top level of the company, there's stuff you can get from the board that you're like, I don't know how we're going to do that. But they cannot say that. That would make them look bad. They would lose credibility and trust. They can't stand in front of their 10,000 person company and be like, I don't know, I'm going to hit all my goals, guys. That is a bad look. It's a bad look. And so what I think is so interesting is the way that you're talking about how important being inquisitive is. And I am a yapper. I have a podcast. I feel like I could be like, I'm a certified yapper. I do have to talk things out in order to get clarity on things. It's very helpful for me I'm a verbal processor. And so what I think is interesting is basically what you two are like pointing out is how that's kind of when you become that strategic partner to leadership, you are a safer space for them to talk out what they're thinking about their project. And it sounds like for you, Noel, you're like, the way you get there is with being inquisitive. But so many project managers are like, but they're the boss. They know what they want. So how do you think about that if you're earlier in your career and you feel like the three of us now are crazy, that we're like, executives don't know what they're talking about and they don't know what they want. And you should just go in there and ask a bunch of questions and that will help. Like, how would they shift their mindset?
Absolutely, because sometimes people think that if I go in asking questions and people don't know that I'm smart, they're not going to think I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I'm really trying to lead with being curious to build the credibility. So one of the worst things that new PMs can do is stay silent because they don't think they have enough experience, or they have this perception that if I ask questions, then people are not going to think that I know what I'm talking about. And so one of the most valuable things or valuable contributions that come from all of these discussions is that you've got to be great asking questions, but there's a way that you do it. And there's a case in point for me today. There's a new meeting that we've got to actually facilitate, and I am being asked to facilitate some of that. I think I know exactly what I want to do, but I might be missing the mark. So I go into my chief operating officer. So he's got a C in front of his title, right? He's the chief of something. I always say that he's the C. And I say, hey, do you have a couple of minutes? I need to bounce some ideas off of you. I have to do blah, blah, blah. And this is what I'm thinking I should do to tackle that.
Yes.
What do you think? I just want to make sure that I'm in the right frame of mind with this. And I want to make sure that your thoughts align with mine. Did that today. And I actually don't really know all of the things that I need to do. I have a good idea, but I got to get some help from somewhere. And so asking it that way doesn't really make you think that, people think that you're not smart or that you don't know what to do. You're now positioning yourself as a person that's a thought leader, and you're also positioning yourself as a partner. And you didn't come to that person saying, I don't really know what to do. Oh my gosh, I have no idea. Because folks in those roles are going to say, well, yeah, what have you thought about first? Before I help you, what are all the things that you could have done first? So you lead with that. I am thinking about doing all of these things. I want to just make sure that this is in alignment with what the objective is. Wanted to bounce these ideas off of you. Does this sound okay? And they're going to start talking because they're like, oh my God, somebody asked me for my advice. Oh my goodness. And then you're going to listen in so intently because you're going to get all that information. Okay, yep, nope, some of that was wrong that I thought I was going to do. Some of it is exactly right on point, and you take all of that. And then that's how you gain that credibility and trust. And then that's how you start asking those questions and start feeling comfortable. It's the way you ask the questions. Don't be an interrogator, but just make sure you modify the way that you ask those questions.
Yeah, there could definitely be a response that's like an overworked, burnt out project manager could be like, I don't know how I'm going to do any of this stuff, right? Like that's a place that I've been into. Many of us have been there, but the best working relationships are the ones where you can go in and be like, I was thinking about it like this. How are you thinking about it? And one thing I wanted to highlight is if you do that and they just start talking, in that role, The sad thing about being a C person is that you don't get to do things anymore. Like you're in
That's right.
meetings making decisions, which are really taxing on your brain. And you're just living in like they haven't made something in a long time, and they haven't gotten to
Yeah.
manage a project in a long time if they were like a former project manager. So they're like, oh my gosh, did you just bring me a box of Legos? And I get to play with Legos at my
And I get
desk
to build.
instead of having
Yeah.
to do like counting money piles and thinking about global like headcount restructurings. Like I would much rather play with Legos than do any of those horrible things my day-to-day is. So it almost feels counterintuitive to be like, I'm going to bring Legos to the C-level person. But that's, I think, what it feels like when you ask a question like that. You're giving them, as long as you show, I think the difference between like an unfun question of like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. Like, what do you think? Right. That puts the whole burden on them to help to figure it out, and also if they don't have time, that's not where their space is.
That's
but
right.
if you bring something for them to look at, that like metaphorically feels malleable, something they can like hold in their hands and participate in the discussion of, like most people want to do that. And if you get leaders that hate that, that will also give you information, about like what type of leader they are. But great leaders appreciate this. And I'm sure that's been your experience. That's been my experience in my career.
Yeah, absolutely. Great leaders really appreciate that. And I found that my manager specifically now comes to me and says, hey, I was thinking about this. I've got this new initiative that we're working on, and I'm probably not even a part of it. But he's starting to say, hey, you know what? I'm just wanting to see what your thoughts are about it. Maybe you think of it in a different way, or am I, thinking about it the same way? And in my mind, I'm like, you're really asking me? Oh my gosh. I can't believe you're asking me for my opinion. That makes me feel special. So you start to develop that partnership where more of those conversations start to happen, and you feel less inclined to be afraid to go to somebody that has a C in front of their title.
I just love that. I keep thinking about your analogy, Kate. It's being in kind of an executive now.
Yeah.
It's like somebody walks into your office. If they're not having that dialogue, it's like somebody dumping a box of Legos on your desk and saying, tugboat. Okay, tugboat. It's
Yeah. Whereas, right, somebody could bring you a partially made model of a tugboat and be like, so I was thinking the tugboat should look like this. And I still have a box of Legos. If this is wrong, we can make a new tugboat. But I was thinking this is the best model for tugboat based off what you wanted to do. Does this look good to you? Like it's the PM's version of prototyping is really what it is.
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, where you're bringing them this, like half-baked, nothing that would, ruin your career, but, there might still be gaps in it, wouldn't be fully functional tomorrow, but what is enough of the direction that if this is the right path, boy, you're just gonna like, gosh, what is it in Fast and Furious? The NOS, right? From Vroom. Right? Like you're like, here I go.
Yeah.
Oh, for me, I'm like, be careful what you say yes to, because I will smack that button. I'm gonna go fast now. So don't say yes if you don't want this path, because I'm about to go deliver based off of this conversation. But yeah, that is what it feels like. It feels like prototyping. So I love that. That's fun. What a fun thing we came up with together today. Good work. Good work, guys.
That was amazing, Noel. I think these are some great tools for all project managers. I took away some things today.
It has been such a delight to have you on. Could you share with our listeners where they can learn more about you? If they want to know what Noel's doing, where can they find you?
The best place for you to go is my website, which is noelnicole.com. And there, that is the central hub for everything. So that's NoelNicole.com, noelnicole.com. You can get all the information about who I am, what my expertise is. You also get access to some development resources if you want to perfect your craft. And just kind of read up on some things. And I love to connect with folks on LinkedIn. You can just pull Noel Ransom up and I'm right there. So those are the two best places that you can reach me to get more information.
And we will also have those links in the show notes for easy access to find Noel, who is great, and you should do that.
Thank you so much for joining us, Noel. As we get to the next round, I'd like to ask you to propose a virtual toast.
Oh, this is the best part. Okay, I can do that. I love the virtual toast idea, by the way. So here goes. Here's to curiosity over certainty, progress over perfection, and the project managers who quietly remove obstacles so great things can happen. May we continue to lead with purpose, communicate with clarity, and create results that matter. And I'll say cheers to that toast.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And that's our show. Thanks for listening. If you liked our show, please leave a review and a comment on iTunes or wherever you get our podcast. Your review really does mean a lot. And if you want to check out our membership site and all of our cool content there, you can check that out at pmhappyhour.com/membership. If you want to talk to us directly about project management, PM consulting, training, or whatever, our contact info is on our website under About Your Hosts, or you can just hit us up on our Facebook site at PM Happy Hour. You'll find we're really pretty easy to get a hold of there. And that's it for today. Good luck with your projects, and we hope to catch you again at the next PM Happy Hour. Cheers.